What do you think you know about mind flayers? And at this point, I'm not even talking about what your character would know, but you as a player. What do you truly know about these creatures? You will be surprised to know not really much, and the things that you do know will turn out to be either false or vastly misrepresented. Let's start with the fact that mind flayers are quite obviously not even their true name. Let's start with what would an average adventurer know about these creatures? Well, you might know that a mind flayer is a brain-eating monster that hides in the Underdark. You might know that they have octopus-like heads that they use to grapple onto opponents, using said tentacles to stun said opponents, so that then they can use their circular shark-like teeth to eat their brains out. You might know that they are coated in nasty mucus which sticks to the skin and makes it very difficult to escape their grasp. And lastly, you might know that they enjoy psychic magic, which they use to obliterate their opponent's brains. Hell, you might even believe that they are good spellcasters, since they will throw in a few spells here and there in combat. What you might be surprised about is that most of those things are not actually completely true. But let's start from the beginning. Mind flayers were not actually bound to the Underdark forever. In fact, they actually come from the very skies. You see, mind flayers used to dominate the inner planes, those being the elemental ones like the plane of fire, the plane of water, or the plane of ash, etc. Essentially everything in between the prime material world and the extraplanar realities like Limbo, or Mount Olympus, or Mechanus, etc. which would be what you would classify as the outer planes. The mind flayers were able to accomplish all of this thanks to their superiority in traversing the astral plane, which they also ruled completely. During this rule, the mind flayers explored world after world, consuming everything in their path, becoming more knowledgeable after every single brain they would consume. This lasted until a massive slave revolt occurred. The Gith, who were the main slave force of the mind flayers, somehow managed to break free from their grasp and started a slow but surefire process of killing every single mind flayer in existence. Now, it is not particularly known how they obtained this freedom or what method they used to finally obtain the upper hand against the mind flayers. What it is known, however, is that the vast empire that the mind flayers left behind is completely gone. Looking around in the Astral Sea or in any of these previously inhabited worlds would yield no find of the mind flayer's presence. The story that is told to us by sages is that the Gith retributed with such ferocity that they went through the process of destroying every single fortification that the mind flayers possessed in order to completely wipe them out. Complete genocide was their intent, and they almost succeeded. The mind flayers ran and hid in the prime material world, making their last bases deep within the Underdark where they could not be found. And that is why you find them there, hiding and plotting in the dark. So they were not originally from the Underdark, but what else is believed about them that is false? Well, to start, their tentacles are not actually used to funnel their psychic energies into their enemies in order for them to eat brains with their mouth. In fact, they actually eat brains with the tentacles themselves. You see, inside of their tentacles lies a duct that has the ability to project an enzyme that corrodes both flesh and bone. Once a mind flayer gets a hold of your head with their tentacles, they dissolve your cranium with this enzyme, leaving your brain exposed. It is then, with those very tentacles, that they absorb your brain into these ducts. Just how your nose is actually connected to your mouth, like such are these tentacles connected into the mind flayer's mouth. So you see, those shark-like teeth are not actually used to open up a hole in your head, but to simply chew the brain matter and consume it after the tentacles do their job. The mucus layer that they possess in their body also has a very sinister ability that you might not know about. First is the very common biological need to keep their bodies moisturized. The mucus actually prevents oxygen from entering their skin. But most importantly, This slime further exacerbates the psychic powers from the mind flayers. How they do this, we do not know. However, a lot of experiments have been done to prove this. When a mind flayer is cleaned off of this mucus, they find their psychic abilities harder to produce, including their ability to shift into other planes of existence. So in some way, this liquid enhances their powers. After much experimentation, however, adventurers and sages have failed in using this mucus for their own purposes. Thanks to this experimentation, however, they have also concluded that this mucus has stupendous magic resistance, which explains why mind flayers are so adept at evading and resisting magical attacks. Lastly, but not least, let's talk about their actual psychic abilities. The first thing that you need to understand is that this is not magic. There's nothing magical about the abilities that the mind flayers produce. In fact, we call it psionics. Now, psionics in Dungeons & Dragons are essentially abilities that are unlocked and used solely with brain power. The easiest way to understand it is with the example of telepathy. The idea that without using magic, one could telepathically converse with another being by sheer force of concentration and practice. The idea that you have trained your brain to such extents that you can move things with it, create things with it, and even kill with it. I want to stress it again, that what makes it so unique and so special is that it has no connection to magic. Psionics could be used even while inside of an anti-magical shell, which also means that you cannot counterspell it. And the range of things that they can accomplish with psionics is actually quite impressive. From turning into stone, to scrying, to telekinesis, to even levitating. Monks, for example, develop their ability to utilize ki, which could be considered a style of psionics. Essentially using their concentration and practice to allow themselves to move faster than normal, resist damage, and even produce the effects of certain spells. So in essence, this is what a mind flayer is. A psionic-wielding, brain-eating monster that is painfully close to going extinct. And because of that, they will fight to the death to protect its enclave. But now that we have dealt with the mere basics, let's go a little bit further. Why do they eat brains? You would think this question could be answered easily, but it is a tad bit more complicated than it seems. Yes, they need sustenance to survive, and they obtain this substance by absorbing the gray matter from intelligent creatures. However, this is not the sole reason. Mind flayers actually obtain the memories of those they eat, memories which they seem to use to scout their surroundings and learn from their environment. This is important because mind flayers have an ultimate goal: to conquer the universe once again, like they did in time immemorial. So their constant hunger is fueled by their never-ending need to find as much information as they can in order to exploit it and further expand. That being said, a mind flayer colony that has no desire to expand, which is entirely possible I might add, would still have to consume brains in order to exist. 1 brain a month per mind flayer to be exact. For as long as a mind flayer can maintain a diet of an intelligent brain a month, they will grow strong and healthy. However, in times of scarcity, a mind flayer can survive up to 3 months without a brain, after which point they will slowly wither and die. A healthy mind flayer, however, has a typical lifespan of about 120 years. That means at least 120 brains will have to be eaten by a mind flayer in its full lifespan, which makes them extremely cancerous to their environments. Sadly, however, it doesn't end there. They also need brains for their reproduction. See, I did tell you that it wasn't going to be an easy answer. They need brains for virtually everything. This, though, is where the mind flayers really do get creepy. You see, mind flayers have an amphibious past. You can tell by the way their skin looks, by their mucous membranes, by their octopus-like heads, and by the fact that they have webbed feet which helps them swim really fast. This also comes into play when you realize that they lay eggs for their reproduction. However, unlike birds and snakes, mind flayers lay thousands of eggs at a time, sort of like a fish do. These eggs are then deposited in a pool full of brine, this specialized liquid made from the remains of other mind flayers. It is pretty nasty, but we will talk about this brine further on the next episode. Inside of this brine pool, the eggs will eventually hatch and form tadpoles. These tadpoles will take a full 10 years to mature. That's an extremely long time, especially when you realize that during all of this time, the tadpoles are not really changing into mind flayers. In fact, they stay in their tadpole shape. All they really do during these 10 years is grow a few inches. However, after they do, they are considered mature and ready for the real transformation. Now, I would like to point out that even getting to this point is extremely difficult for the tadpoles. For you see, inside of this brine pool, it is essentially every tadpole for itself. They will fight between one another for food, and only the strongest will survive. Those that are too weak or end up dying will be consumed by the massive other inhabitant of the brine pool, the Elder Brain. The Elder Brain is essentially the leader of the mind flayers, but we will also have to talk about it during the next episode. Point is, a massacre will occur during these 10 years, and only 1 out of 1,000 tadpoles will actually survive to maturity. This assures that only the strongest and most determined of the tadpoles will ever make it into becoming a mind flayer. Get ready, for you are about to hear how a mind flayer is actually created, one of the biggest secrets that these colonies hold. You see, for a tadpole to transform, they need a living, intelligent humanoid host. A mind flayer typically grabs a slave and inserts the tadpole into their brain, usually via either the ear canal or through the nose. While inside, the tadpole will consume the host's brain, completely removing any personality, any spirit, and any memories from it. It will then attach itself into the brainstem and control the body, filling the remains of the hollow cranium with space for the tadpole to grow into a full-grown mind flayer brain. Then, very similar actually to blue slats, the body simply starts the process of slowly transforming into the body of a mind flayer, turning purple and growing the necessary appendages and so on. In fact, you could even say that they combine the process of both the red and the blue slats in their reproduction, using both tadpoles and straight-up mutations. However, it will then take just about 20 years for this new adult mind flayer to enter its prime, though no difference in physical properties will ever be shown, and no remains from the old body will be seen. Whether the old host was a female or a male, whether it was an orc or a goblin, it will not change how the mind flayer looks, except for height and weight. Now, not any intelligent humanoid can be used in this transformation. It is believed that halflings, dwarves, dwergars, gnomes, centaurs, giants, and quotuas are immune to this transformation. And because of that, they are not used by the mind flayers for this purpose. However, humans, elves, drow, Gith, Grimlocks, Gnolls, Goblins, and Orcs are acceptable as long as they are at least 5 feet tall and no taller than 6 feet. They must also weigh at least 130 pounds and no more than 270. It is believed that if the host body is either too small or too large, then the tadpole will either take too long or finish too quick in the process of eating the brain, which would result in the tadpole dying. Now guys, thank you so much for watching the video, and make sure to like it if you did or dislike it if you didn't. Stay tuned, of course, for part 2 of this video, where we will cover all the different types of mind flayers that you can find, including what happens when they insert a tadpole inside of a monster instead of a humanoid. What kind of crazy mind flayer would come out of that? See you around.